The moment her luxury car sputtered to a halt outside his rust-covered garage, Chase Porter wiped the sweat from his jawline, expecting nothing more than a routine repair. But when the woman stepped out, heels in hand, fury in her eyes, and a phone full of unanswered billionaire calls, he offered to fix it for free. She didn't thank him that day. But the next morning, a convoy of black SUVs rolled up, and what happened next? It shattered everything he thought he knew about kindness, wealth, and himself. Let's begin. The late August heat clung to the air like a thick, invisible weight, wrapping itself around every cracked sidewalk, every rusted pipe, and every breath Chase Porter took. His hands were coated in motor oil, knuckles scraped raw from a transmission job on a beat-up Dodge, when he heard the sharp screech of tires just outside the garage. Then silence, followed by a single furious bang on the side door. He pushed aside the hanging tarp, squinting into the sunlight. A woman, mid-30s, statuesque, dressed in dusty designer pants and a cream button-down shirt, was dragging her high heels in one hand and standing beside a jet-black Maserati with steam hissing from under the hood. "You the mechanic?" She snapped, her voice crisp, like she wasn't used to being kept waiting. Chase nodded. "That's what the sign says. Something wrong?" She looked at him like he'd just insulted her bloodline. "It died. The engine. On a back road I shouldn't have even been on. And I've got no cell service." Chase tilted his head. "Well, you've got a car, a mechanic, and a garage. Sounds like you just found some luck." She looked like she hadn't smiled in months. "Can you fix it or not?" Chase didn't ask her name. He didn't ask what she did or why she was driving a car worth more than his entire shop through a nowhere town like his. Instead, he rolled up his sleeves, popped the hood, and got to work. As he leaned in, she stayed close. Arms crossed, foot tapping, eyes scanning the garage like she wanted to bleach the place. "You don't have to stand guard," he muttered with a smirk. "I'm not going to steal it." She flinched. "I wasn't." "Yeah, you were." For a moment her gaze softened. "You don't even know who I am." "Nope," he said, tightening a clamp. "But I know a busted water pump when I see one. Give me 30 minutes. She sighed and leaned against the wall, trying to hide the way her knees buckled. It was then he noticed her shirt was stained near the cuff, her earrings mismatched, and her phone, still in her hand, had over 30 missed calls from a contact saved as Mason. Do not answer. Chase didn't ask questions. 35 minutes later, he handed her the keys. "You're good. Just take it slow till you get to the city." She fished into her pocket, pulling out a sleek wallet. "How much?" He shrugged. "Nothing." She blinked. "Excuse me?" "You look like you've had a rough day. And I don't charge people who don't even have service to call for help." She stared at him, then down at the keys in her palm. Her lips parted like she wanted to say something, but she didn't. She just got in the car, fired up the engine, and drove off without a single thank you. Chase shook his head, grabbed his rag, and went back to work. He didn't see the way she watched him in the rearview mirror until she turned the corner, and he sure didn't see what was coming next. By 8 a.m. the next morning, Chase had already knocked out 2 oil changes, a brake pad replacement, and was halfway through wrestling with a stubborn alternator when the sound of engines, multiple engines, cut through the hum of his radio. He turned, squinting past the garage's rolling door, 3 black SUVs, windows tinted so dark they looked like slabs of obsidian. They rolled in, slow, purposeful and silent, like the kind of entrance that only ever meant 2 things: money or trouble. Chase reached for a rag to clean his hands, heart thudding, not in fear, but confusion. The driver's door of the first SUV opened, and out stepped the woman from yesterday, only this time she wasn't dragging her heels or looking like she'd just escaped something. She was transformed. Pressed navy pants, crisp white shirt, low ponytail, sleek and perfect. dark sunglasses sliding down the bridge of her nose. There was no hesitation in her walk, no edge of desperation in her posture, just cold composure and something else. Regret, maybe. Behind her, two men in tailored suits stepped out. One carried a metal case. The other wore an earpiece. Chase's brow furrowed. "You lost again?" he asked as she approached. She pulled off her sunglasses slowly, deliberately. "No, I'm exactly where I need to be." The way she said it made the air tighten. He gestured to the cars. "You bring the cavalry to pay your tab?" That's when she did something Chase hadn't seen the day before. She smiled, a slow, honest, haunted kind of smile. "No," she said. "I came to thank you. Properly." He leaned on the workbench, arms crossed. "I don't need thanks. I didn't do anything special." She stepped closer. "You didn't ask who I was. You didn't roll your eyes when I was rude. You fixed a car that most people won't even touch, unless they get paid up front. You saw someone who was broken, and you helped without asking why." Chase looked down. "You don't owe me anything." She opened her mouth, hesitated, then finally said it. "I'm Vanessa Albright." He blinked. "Should that mean something?" "To me," she tilted her head. "Ever heard of Albright Financial Group?" Chase stiffened. "You mean the billion-dollar firm that bailed out 3 airlines and 2 banks last year?" She nodded. "That's my family. My name was on every one of those deals. Until last week." She paused, eyes darting away. "My fiancé, Mason, he's the one you saw calling me. He locked me out of my accounts, froze my cards, took the house, and left me stranded halfway to Chicago after a fight." Chase's face darkened. "Wait, you were left on purpose?" Vanessa nodded slowly. "He wanted to teach me a lesson. I was supposed to beg to come back." Her jaw clenched. "You didn't just fix a car, Chase. You gave me back something he tried to steal. My dignity." For a long moment, Chase said nothing. Then quietly, "You didn't look like the kind of woman who begs." "I'm not," she replied. She turned to the man with the case. He opened it. Inside, neatly stacked bundles of cash, a sealed envelope, and keys, expensive ones. Chase took a step back. "What is this?" "A gift," Vanessa said. "And a proposition." He raised an eyebrow. "I don't take bribes." "This isn't a bribe," she said. "It's an opportunity. You're not just a mechanic, Chase. I saw your books, your designs. That busted pickup with the rebuilt engine outside? That's yours, right? You're an innovator, and you're stuck in a garage no one sees." She looked at him, intense. "Let me change that. Work with me, partner with me, build something together." The air was too still, the moment too unreal. Chase whispered, "Why me?" Vanessa stared at him. "Because when I had nothing, you treated me like I was still someone. And now that I have everything again, I want you to know what it feels like to be seen too." He looked down at his hands, still smudged with oil and calloused with years of grit, and for the first time in a long time he didn't feel small. He felt seen. Chase didn't answer her right away. He couldn't. The room felt smaller, the air heavier, like the walls were holding their breath with him. He looked down at the case again. Money he'd never seen, keys that didn't belong in his kind, of life, and an envelope that looked like it held more power than he was ready to open. "I appreciate the gesture," he said slowly, "but I didn't help you for a reward. I don't even know you." Vanessa didn't flinch. "You will." Chase studied her face, too calm, too perfect. But beneath the makeup and the straight lines of wealth, her eyes still held that same tremble he'd seen yesterday. A woman used to survival, not saviors. "I'm not used to people showing up in convoys with life-changing deals," Chase muttered. "I'm not used to being stranded in nowhere towns with men who refuse to charge me," she said. Their eyes locked. Then the moment shattered. A black BMW screeched to a halt behind the SUVs. Out jumped a tall man in a 3-piece suit, hair slicked back, rage flooding every step he took toward the garage. "Mason!" Vanessa hissed under her breath. Chase instinctively stepped in front of her. "Really, Vanessa?" Mason's voice boomed. "You run away for 24 hours, and now you're playing business with some grease-stained farm boy." Chase didn't say a word, but his jaw locked. Vanessa didn't flinch. "You froze my life. You left me in the middle of nowhere, and now you're tracking me?" "I own you," Mason snapped. "Everything you touch, everything you wear, every deal you've signed, it was mine first. You think you can just run away and shack up with a nobody?" "Watch your mouth," Chase said calmly, stepping closer. Mason laughed. "What are you gonna do? Fix my car too?" Before Chase could move, Vanessa stepped in. "No," she said, her voice like steel, "but I'll fix this." She reached into her blazer and pulled out a slim manila folder. "This is a copy of every transaction you made using my credentials. You messed with the wrong person. This town has good lawyers, Mason, honest ones." Mason's face went pale. "I've got your offshore accounts, wire transfers, even the fake company you tried to move my trust fund through. You thought I wouldn't. Notice?" She stepped closer. "I was quiet, not stupid." The security guards by the SUVs shifted slightly. One tapped his earpiece. Mason's voice cracked. You don't have the guts." "I don't need guts," she whispered. "I've got proof." He looked at Chase, then back at her. "You think this loser can protect you?" Vanessa's smile was cold now. "No, I can protect myself." A siren wailed in the distance. Mason's eyes widened. "You called the cops," he whispered. "No," Chase said. "I did." Mason didn't wait. He bolted for the BMW, but the SUV guards blocked him. Within seconds, 2 sheriff's cruisers rolled into the lot. Chase stepped back, the adrenaline in his veins beginning to settle. Vanessa turned to him. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to drag you into this." But Chase shook his head. He dragged himself. "I just don't like bullies." She watched him, her expression unreadable. "I meant what I said," she added quietly, "about the offer. Not because you helped me, because I believe in people like you." Chase looked at her. Really looked at her. Not as a billionaire, not as a woman trying to escape something, but as someone who, like him, had built walls to survive, only to find someone brave enough to knock. And for the first time in years, Chase said something that felt risky. "Tell me what you've got in mind." Vanessa smiled, and somewhere between the blue sirens and the sound of broken things finally coming apart, something began to come together. The sun was dipping behind the grain silos when Vanessa came back. This time, she was alone. No SUVs, no suits, just her, a coffee tray in one hand and a worn leather folder in the other, stepping over oil stains on cracked concrete like she belonged there. Chase was under the hood of a truck again, half his body swallowed by metal and heat. But he heard her boots and her silence before she spoke. "You always work this late?" she asked. "Only when something's worth fixing," Chase replied, sliding out and wiping his hands on a rag. "That coffee for me, or just your peace offering?" She handed him a cup. "Both." They sat on an old bench outside the shop. For a while, neither spoke. The cicadas filled the silence like an old soundtrack. Vanessa finally broke it. "I wasn't supposed to end up here, or with you. I was supposed to marry Mason in October, be his pretty face for the board, pop out a couple of kids and host luncheons." Chase took a sip. "Why didn't you?" She gave a bitter smile. "Because I had a brain and a gut. And both told me he didn't love me. He loved what I looked like on paper." He studied her. "So you walked away." "No," she corrected. "He pushed me off the cliff. I just happened to land here." She opened the folder. Inside were papers, blueprints and sketches, technical, complex, innovative. "Where'd you get these?" Chase asked. "I found them," she said, nudging his arm. "In that drawer you thought was locked. You've been designing custom hybrid kits, fuel-efficient, low-cost, adaptable for old engines. You're sitting on something that could flip the aftermarket world." Chase stiffened. That's just something I've been tinkering with. No, she said firmly. That's a future. And it's bigger than this town. He stared at the papers, then at her. You want me to sell it? I want you to build it. With me. I've got the capital, the team, the distribution. You've got the brains and the vision. You build. I back. He chuckled dryly. And just like that, a stranger with a flat tire becomes my business partner. Vanessa's gaze didn't waver. You saved me when I was at my lowest. This isn't charity, it's strategy, and maybe a little bit of redemption. Chase leaned back, the tension in his chest too familiar. People like you, your world doesn't mix with mine. Vanessa tilted her head. You think I'm just a billionaire in heels. But I've scraped blood off bathroom tiles after boardroom betrayals. I've swallowed shame in rooms where I had to smile to survive. I know what it means to crawl back from nothing. Chase stared at her. What if I fail? Vanessa reached over and placed her hand on his. Calloused, scarred, real. Then we fail together, but we try. And that's more than I've ever done with anyone. His voice dropped. And what if I say yes? She smiled. Then you don't just build engines, Chase. You build a legacy. The weight of the moment pressed down on him, not in fear, but in awe. He thought about his father, dead before he could see Chase turn 18. About the years he spent patching up busted trucks and hearts in silence. About the dreams that lived only in grease-stained notebooks. And about this woman, this unlikely, relentless, brilliant woman, who'd walked into his shop with smoke. Under her hood and fire in her chest, he looked at her hand still resting on his, and he said one word. Okay, Vanessa grinned. Not the polished kind she wore in photographs, but the kind you give when something real starts. Then let's change. The world, mechanic. The transformation began quietly. No headlines, no grand ribbon-cutting ceremonies, just a rusted garage with a new lock, a fresh coat of paint, and 2 people showing up every morning with coffee, grit, and too many ideas. Vanessa moved into a small apartment down the road from the shop. Nothing fancy. She said she needed to learn to live without penthouses and staff. She drove herself. Cooked ramen with Chase when the nights ran long. She laughed more now, swore when bolts slipped. She even started keeping her heels in the trunk of her car, just in case. And Chase? He started breathing differently. The weight he carried on his shoulders, being the guy who was always just enough. The guy who was told by teachers, bosses, and life itself that he'd never build anything real. It started to fall away. One drawing at a time, one late-night design review at a time. Unreal partnership, but not everyone was happy. Mason's indictment went public within weeks. Embezzlement, identity theft, wire fraud. The news stations didn't say Vanessa's name, but the ones in the room knew. He tried to spin it, of course, claimed he was framed. Accused Chase of seducing Vanessa to steal her company. But Vanessa had receipts and a quiet army of women in the industry who'd waited too long for someone to expose what Mason really was behind the designer suits. Meanwhile, back in that modest town, Chase's first prototype engine was installed in an old Ford pickup driven by a retired vet who couldn't afford gas anymore. The man cried when he got 300 miles off the tank. That video went viral. Then came the investors. Then came a small warehouse. Then came Albright Porter Innovations, a startup no one saw coming, built on a moment of unexpected kindness. One morning, Chase stood outside their new facility, clean steel siding, glass windows, the hum of a dozen machines working on his designs. Vanessa came out with 2 mugs. He looked at her. You know, he said. None of this makes sense, she smirked. What? The part where a billionaire heiress gets dumped and finds her future? In a dusty garage? No, he said. The part where someone like me actually got chosen, not pitied, not overlooked. Chosen. Vanessa stepped closer. You didn't just fix my car, Chase. You fixed the part of me that forgot what real strength looks like. You reminded me that not all good things come with price tags." He swallowed hard. "You ever think about what would have happened if I charged you?" She grinned. "Then I would have paid, left, and never realized what I was really looking for." Chase smiled. "And what were you looking for?" She leaned in, whispered against his chest, "Someone who doesn't want anything from me but me." He pulled her in. No speeches, no stage, just the quiet understanding between two people who'd both been broken and somehow ended up being the glue in each other's story. And the man who fixed her car? He didn't just change her engine. He changed her entire life, and she rebuilt something in him too. Not with money, but with belief, and in the end, that was worth more than all the Maseratis in the world.